According to various mainstream media outlets, there's been this rise in anti-Semitism all across the world. Why? Because Hamas dared to attack on October the 7th, and of course some people just don't understand how Israel has the right to defend herself by killing 4,200 and some odd children in Palestine. It's all about the children in Palestine, about Israel and not about the children in Palestine. And how dare you be upset about it? This, of course, is the story. This, of course, is the understanding. This, of course, is the narrative that they're going to push to keep you quiet and call you an anti-Semite and call you Nazi for questioning what the IDF does or Israel does, or as I've done on many occasions, what Bibi Netanyahu's doing just to hang on to fucking power. That's their narrative. That's what they do. That's the only defense they have. Call themselves, play the victim card, no matter how brutal Israel or the IDF or Bibi Netanyahu happen to be that fucking week. Well, there's a great example of that from a guy by the name of Rapaport. This guy is the worst. This guy is a scumbag. He is a New York celebrity, revels in his Jewishness. Of course, hates all people unvaxxed. Had awful things to say about people who chose a different path than he did during the pandemic. And of course, pretty much everything they said and all the reasons they chose not to get jabbed with this fucking fake goddamn vaccine turned out to be 100% accurate. Didn't matter to him. He was just all in his feelings and hating on people who said, you know what, especially doctors, you know what, maybe there's a reason they tested vaccines for 10 years before allowing them to be sold to the public or given to the public in the past. He has a take on what's happening now. And I want you to keep it in mind what I just showed you about the rise of anti-Semitism and how it's all blamed on the Palestinians and it's all blamed on the fucking liberal left and how it's all blamed on me personally. But I want you to keep all that in mind while having a listen to Mr. Rapaport's take on what's going on in the world today and what's going on in America today. I don't want you to think about negative Jewish stereotypes, okay? Don't think about that as he goes on his 1 minute and 30-second rant, okay? Don't think about negative Jewish stereotypes and people playing into them, Jewish people playing into them in obscenely offensive ways. Don't think about people being so out of touch. They don't even comprehend how much damage they're doing to the reputation of their own kind. No, I just want you to listen to Mr. fucking Michael Rapaport. He says, we're nice and we're making lists. Lists.
A lot of conversations amongst my Jewish friends about the silence, the disappointment, the disappearing acts on some Doug Henning, David Blaine shit just disappeared, boom, in the air. A lot of people have disappeared. I'm telling you right now, we are making a list, we are checking it twice, and we already know who's been naughty or nice. See that pun? You see that pun? I'm talking about the Jewish people, but I'm also talking Christmas carols. We will not forget. We're not suckers. So when you come around asking for this, that, and the third, come around asking for money, investments, and all that stuff, I promise you, it's being discussed. We're paying attention to who's being anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, or not saying anything at all. I promise you, we see. I'm the enigma. A lot of Jewish people seem nice. We seem like we're suckers. Seemed like you could kind of convince us. Trust me, don't come around. 6 months, 8 months, 2 years. We're remembering, we're paying attention.
We're remembering, we're paying attention. Walking down the fucking streets of New York. Talking about fucking children being blown up. And the question is, proportionality in war, is that enough? Is that too much? Have you fucking killed enough goddamn children? And he says himself, people have gone disappearing. A big David Blaine act. Talking about Jewish people who just can't get behind Zionist, Likud party, Bibi Netanyahu, blowing up children to stay in power in fucking Israel. And he's walking down the street saying, we're keeping lists. When you come to us for money later, we're going to know. We're keeping lists. Fuck you. Fuck your blood money. You Zionist, fascist, fucking Nazi. How's that? Fuck your blood money. You can stick it straight up your goddamn ass. That's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to point out is, let's go back, shall we? All the way back to where I started. New wave of anti-Semitism. Mr. Rapaport should be very keenly aware. He should be, but he's not, because he's stupid. He showed you how stupid he was by having to explain his fucking Christmas Carol, which, by the way, it's not a Christmas Carol. He's one of these guys who tries to pretend like he's a lot smarter than he actually is. He has no concept how what he just did and put on Twitter and on fucking Instagram or wherever, thinking he's doing something good for the fucking Israeli fucking people and the Jewish people. But what he's actually doing is terribly harmful. It's terribly harmful. The stereotype is the Jewish person is constantly fucking consumed with the idea of money and the lending money, and they're making lists because they're sneaky. What's he say? Oh, we might be smiling and we might seem friendly, but this is playing to every fucking anti-Jewish fucking trope that I've heard. He didn't mention the hook-nosed Jew, but I guess maybe he does in the second video. Who the fuck knows? This is the dumbest thing. I've heard him say some dumb shit back during the COVID days. I've heard him say some straight up, stone cold dumb shit. This has got to be number 1 or 2 on the fucking list. So after it's all said and done, if you happen to stand up for humanity, like he was suggesting, many other Jewish people are, by not standing in support of Bibi Netanyahu's fucking endless war to save his goddamn political career. If you don't do that, if you don't stand with that, and apparently many fucking Jewish people aren't, according to him, then they're making lists. There's going to be payback. You think that's not something that's going to add to the fucking anti-Semitist fucking feelings of those who already hold them? Of course it is. I mean, he's just begging for hatred. He's just begging for hatred is what he's doing. Maybe it's just a stunt. Maybe it's just that people are talking about stuff. People are talking about shit that have to do with Israel and have to do with Jews, and nobody's talking about Michael Rapaport. And so he had to make some goddamn outrageous, goddamn outlandish fucking statement just to get some clout back on him, to get some attention back on him. Maybe he had to find a way to make the killing that's taking place in Palestine and Israel right now about Michael Rapaport. Because he's just that fucking narcissistic. Or maybe he's just too stupid to understand what he was doing. But the reality is, remember when I talked this morning about, and before, I talked about the fact that This is putting on pressure on Jewish people outside of Israel, which is going to put pressure on people inside of Israel to get rid of Bibi Netanyahu, get rid of the fucking Likud party, and start taking a serious look at the IDF generals and commanders who were in charge on October the 7th. And what they did end up doing through the Hannibal Directive. It's going to happen. It's falling apart. And what he's doing, if it's not just a fucking narcissistic ploy to make it all about him, if he is really that stupid and desperate, because he finds himself in a smaller and smaller and smaller minority where he's lashing out, angling. Oh, we'll get you. We're going to get you. It might not be today. It might be when you come for a loan, but we're going to get you. We're making lists. This is what little cowards do. Little cowards who find themselves in a corner with a dwindling fucking pool of friends. They lash out any way they can. They try to get that fucking holier than thou attitude. And then eventually, they squirm off under whatever rock they came from to begin with, which is where Michael Rapaport will go back to. Notice he doesn't talk a whole bunch about the fucking COVID-19 and forcing people to get the jabs and mandates and keeping people out of hospitals because they dared to fucking reject the goddamn COVID-19 fake jabs that pretty much everyone right now, except for 2% of the population, are rejecting. You insipid little man. So too will be his glorious take, his glorious work-keeping lists take on this. But it certainly doesn't do Jewish Americans any favors, suggesting that Jews are going to be withholding money if you don't support Bibi Netanyahu's fucking bloodbath in Gaza. That's certainly not going to help people who have to deal with real anti-Semitism in this country. But of course, Michael Rapaport doesn't really give a shit about that, does he? Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. That was fascinating little display by him. And if you know anything about his fucking COVID takes, it's not surprising. Have a good one.